Justin Jones is actually our lender. He got on here. That's nice.
Mike Cosman, are you in the Cosmos?
He's in Michigan.
No, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for defending my last name.
I love this.
I love this. I have Ohio on the call. I have Michigan on the call.
And Mr. Jones is just in time.
He is muted. I don't know if he sees that he's muted.
That is correct.
Oh my God. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about mid-year momentum and what if we're in a slump? How do we get out of it? So what I want to get a feel for first is this actually a thing? My assumption is if we show up in this call, something caught our attention. So we're like, this might apply to me. So I'd love to hear from you all. Like, if you are in a slump or speaking for a friend, what could that slump look like? I'd love to hear from you guys. Mike.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got a little bit of a slump, and it was just life because last month I had some health issues, and so I was diagnosed with anemia, and I had to get my iron count. I had no energy, so I felt like right as the summer season was beginning, I lost some momentum, and so I didn't have any. I could barely pick up a phone. It felt like, So the first 2 weeks of June, going into the third week of June, I just didn't do much with real estate. I had my deals in the pipeline that I just maintained and monitored them to see them to close, and they've closed in July. But now I'm riding the roller coaster again and trying to get more business. So that's how I felt like. I don't want to say a slump, but I lost my momentum. So.
Totally understood. And you know what's interesting about this? We watch baseball. I always think of a slump as in a baseball because baseball is what I grew up on. And sometimes people are going along really well and you don't realize a slump. Like they're winning so slowly. It looks like they're losing so slowly. It looks like they're winning. And you don't realize a slump sometimes until you look back at data, like how many deals you did, how many contacts you had, that kind of thing. So by the time you feel the slump, you're really slumped.
Yeah, this is so true. So, but you're using here in Detroit Tigers have definitely been in a long-term slump. So I don't know what you call that.
I think that's just decades long, my friend.
Yeah.
It's just a terrible team.
Call it a franchise.
It's a franchise slump.
Yeah, there you go.
Sarah, so how do you know if you're in a slump? I'm just curious. Like, what was your summer like, first of all, and how do you feel your momentum is?
Well, I tend to feel like there's things I'm avoiding. And I start to realize when I'm avoiding things that's usually where I'm headed. It's like I instinctually know what I want to be doing, but I'm looking for excuses to not do it.
Ooh, that's pretty vulnerable.
Yeah.
So how quickly do you find yourself realizing that you're avoiding things? Like, is this something you look back in a week, a month, half year?
Usually within a couple of days. I tend to have Post-it notes with all my to-dos that I have taped to my monitor, and I look at them and I go, oh yeah, that's been sitting there for how long? And sometimes I look at it and I go, like this one, the blue one has been here for, a long time. And I just sit there thinking, okay, why am I avoiding it? And I think I had shared with you guys once before. So I am naturally not a very systematized person. And a lot of people find that bizarre because they think I'm the queen of systems. And I'm like, yes, because I have to. If I don't make a system, all of a sudden, Nikki will be like, hey, I thought you were calling me 2 weeks ago. And I'll be like, oh my God, I totally forgot. Right. So I have to set those systems in place.
Love that. Nikki, you're in the hot seat now. So how is your summer? Is your momentum amazing? Are you feeling a slump? Are you feeling a momentum shift? What are you seeing?
Definitely feeling a momentum shift. And that is because of where I am. Like the gentleman Mike said, life can get in the way, or when you change or when you add something on top of what you're already doing, you change your focus. So it really depends on what your focus is. For example, those that are full-time real estate, you're going to stay in touch with your people. You're going to be out showing houses. You're going to wait for a house to hit the market and then boom, or you're going to stay in touch with your people through your database. I think I've added a new world that is not a new world. added it anyway. And so my focus has become diversified.
You know, as you were talking, Nikki, I was kind of asking myself, is the slump our activities, or is the momentum shift in our results? Like, do we see less appointments and deals, or do we realize that our momentum shift is happening in our activities? Just ask
That's a
yourself.
great question. And it seems like in the summertime, activities are the ones that are easier to nail because there's more to do. There's more opportunities, at least here in the Midwest, it's not freezing and it's not raining. So the minute that you can get outside and somebody says, hey, you want to go do this? Okay, do you want to lead generate or do you want to go sit out at the pool with your neighbor?
Is that really a question?
I don't know. I was just putting it out. There's a possibility.
All right. You know, when this topic first came up, I was like, well, I don't know if I'm in a slump. I don't know if there's momentum shift until I saw an email. And Sarah, do you have the slide with that email, like 6 different things, kind of a mid-year check-in? And it was a really good check-in to kind of look through this list. And oh, look at these beautiful people. It's a mid-year check-in. Just look at these questions and ask yourself, has momentum shifted? And the way you answer these will help you understand if you've had a shift in momentum or not. Like, for instance, the one that got me, well, we'll start with number 1. Who has been there to support you this year? Maybe the people you were least expecting to show up for you have. Or number 2, how much are you prioritizing yourself? Number 3, how much have you spoken your needs once in truth in your relationships?
I think that's the hardest one for me right there, number 3, because I tend to just be on my own path and I don't really put it out there.
Well, remember what you said, Sarah, about you know, you don't really know if you're in a slump or not, or you have all these these notes and you're avoiding things. Do you think talking to people around you would help you not avoid things?
Oh, definitely.
Why do you think we don't? Why don't you? I'll ask you. If you're curious about yourself, what keeps you from your needs and wants to your family and relationships?
To be honest with you, I mostly get up and do the things I need to do, and I just am one track minded. And at the end of the day, I probably think about it a little bit, and then I just get up and do the same thing the next day.
Well, what do you do with the avoided thing?
It just sits there. It'll still be there tomorrow.
So give us an example of something you're avoiding, Sarah.
Well, I mean, it's there's a class that I'm halfway through creating. And to be honest with you, it's one of those things where I was really, really hot on it. And then I sort of slacked off only because all of a sudden I had all these other responsibilities and things that came into play. So it's there, but I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, I'm like, well, I could spend an hour doing that, but honestly, I'm kind of tired. I'm gonna go relax. So it's a little bit of, you know, avoiding it and a little bit of just saying, okay, it's all right to put it off.
So here's some real talk, Sarah. Just getting ready for this. I have a class too I'm creating. And so instead of posting that class, I spent an hour doing my dishes. And then I did 2 loads of laundry just today.
Yeah, that's a lot of
You
laundry.
guys ever done that?
Yeah.
Kim, you're shaking your head. Yeah. Is that like a slow nod or like a yes, you do that? Yeah. Why?
That brings up number 2. So Sarah said, how much have you spoken your needs? She goes one way. But what you just said opens number 2 that says, how much would you say you have or have felt able to prioritize yourself and your own needs? So Paul said you talked about doing dishes and laundry today. Why don't you answer that and take that lead for us on, you know, where is it in this summer slump? Where do you prioritize yourself and how in this industry do you prioritize your own wants and needs when we know that real estate will take it all over?
Well, I can tell you, I haven't been doing a very good job the last 4 weeks, except for one thing. I'm training for a marathon. And so every day I will do my mileage. So I'm like, look, if everything else falls apart, I'm going to get my miles in because I'm going to run that race because it's been 6 years since I ran a race. And by God, I'm going to make this happen this year.
So there's your determination right there. So your mid-year check-in, you're not doing anything specifically. You are making your own goal, correct? You're going to run a marathon, your priority. Is that what we heard you say?
Yeah. Now that's my personal priority. That doesn't make me a whole lot of money.
Paul,
Yeah.
is there a reason why you're focused on the marathon? Is because you've had past experience of running and you know the pain that will, you'll endure if you don't train properly for 26.2?
Oh my God, that's actually the thing. Like I
You
know
know,
how.
the pain.
Yes.
My
Yes.
wife has run like 14 of them. And so I physically have had the pain through her, as watching. And if you don't train properly, I know what you'll go through. So if you don't train properly, you might as well not even run that race. So that's easier to stay focused because you're avoiding the pain.
Sean, I'm really, oh wow, you really taught me something there because I've been intuitively doing that, but not on purpose. And yet I think that's going to help me with my business right now. If I think about the future pain of not getting this course out there, how that's going to impact my future income. It's going to make life hard in September and October.
That's what we think about, right? Whatever we're doing right now is going to affect us how many days from now?
Like 90.
60,
Right.
90. Yeah.
60 to 90 days. So we know where our mid-year check-in is. How are we doing in our activities that are going to be our income producing? And what we're working towards in the real talk is helping people have lives as well as having successful businesses.
Yep.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, Nikki, I looked at number 5. And it's like, have you spent time doing the things you enjoy? Running a marathon, I actually like my training every day. I actually enjoy that. That's 1 hour and a half that I don't report to anybody except my breathing. No headphones. It's just the chickens and the turkeys, whatever's around me, the helicopters, and my breath. I count my breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
All right, but now I want to come to you where there's chickens, turkeys, and helicopters.
Right?
Lancaster. It's Amish country.
I love it.
So
right.
I asked this question, talking about maybe we should ask the audience to give us a little bit more. Mike talked about health issues. Sean maybe bring something else, or if someone else wants to comment, talk to us about what is stopping you in your slump. What has been number 6 says, what's been overwhelming, stressful, or just not how you wanted it to be. It says, where can you put in boundaries? But I don't believe that you can really put in boundaries until you acknowledge really what is the thing that's stopping you.
Nobody wants to share.
I'm going to say, where's
They're all
Bueller?
quiet.
Bueller? Come on, Kim. Kim's on the call. We can trust Kim.
Nikki, you know what's funny about this? Do you know how hard it is to be quiet for literally 15 seconds and let the silence do that?
Yeah, you could let the silence do the talking. I'll just share for me, and I think you would all agree that really, for me, like when I feel like I'm getting in a slump, it's because I'm not actually doing enough. So I tend to work more efficiently, more purposely when I'm busier. Does that make sense? When you are training for a marathon, you got to make it work, right? And the more that I can time block and really be purposeful with what I'm doing in my day, I would say I'm less in a slump. But if I have a day and I go look at my calendar and it's wide open, I'll just, I don't know, click around and do things that really aren't getting me business or aren't, connecting with people or anything like that. That's for me personally. I know that that's when I feel that mid-year slump or I'm not meeting my goals. I'm not doing enough.
Kim, you just reminded me of that comment about we don't burn out because we're doing too much. We burn out because we're not being or not doing enough of what we love.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't really mention that, but when you're super busy, have you ever burnt out being super busy for too long?
Well, yeah. I mean, if I'm doing things I don't like doing, yeah. If I got to go do my taxes, I'm burnt out in 4.5 minutes,
I'm surprised it takes that long. I'd be burnt out much before that.
I
Yeah,
jokingly say that I have a bookkeeper for my CPA before that, so that when it comes to taxes, all they have to do is give me a report and I will go sell a house or coach someone or do something to make sure that I never have to touch another tax form ever again.
yeah. But that is such a good point, Paul. Like if we're constantly doing what is in our natural or not in our gift zone or in our energy zone, much quicker we will feel burnout.
Well, here's a question I have. Everyone on this call, and I don't know Sharon yet, but it's either in the real estate or mortgage space, right? When you look at this list and you look, and I can flip back to the first three, but when you look at your life and your work and all of the things that are that you're doing, what is it that you're finding overwhelming or stressful? What are some things that you're finding that, you know, if you were to accomplish them, it probably would make a difference?
I can answer that, Sarah.
Yep.
One thing is just, I've made a goal at the beginning of the year to stay on top of, but my P&L statement, you know, because I waited till January of this year to finish 2022 with my P&L statement, and then I thought, okay, I'm not going to let that happen, and I started again, and I was on top of it through mid-March, but then you get busy, and I didn't stay on top of it, and it starts creeping up, and so now, you know, and then my wife asks me, well, where's your expenses going towards, and I'm kind of fumbling for answers. So, you know, stay on top of my P&L, because a lot of my income comes from my sphere, and I try and pour back into my sphere, but am I getting an ROI? I am constantly evaluating that. How am I doing that if I don't know my P&L statement? So that stresses me out when I don't stay on it month to month, and I don't know why I don't do that. It's just, it doesn't take that long, and the kicker is I have an accounting and finance background, you know, so
The numbers are easy for you.
yes.
I will avoid that to the nth degree and upload all of my statements in one fell swoop to my bookkeeping people. And then I don't have to talk to them for a month because they're busy trying to catch up. I think it's great that you're doing that. So what you got to ask yourself is, what is stopping you? Is it the numbers you're not going to like? Is it the activity taking it away from where you could be at doing what you like?
I think it's a fear of, you know, I don't want the expenses to overcome the income. So I'm so busy just trying to earn the money. I just kind of like focus on that, and I know the income will come in, and then I worry about the expenses later. I think that's it.
Like many entrepreneurs, right? You go out and do exactly what you know how to do to bring the money in, but the systems, which is a word that's taken 23 years for me to be able to say out loud without cringing, the systems are what we're missing, right? So if you could set up, I'm not a spreadsheet person, for example. My dad was, and he used to come over to my house and put numbers in a spreadsheet, and then he'd leave, and I would touch something, and then the whole formula would go away. And then I have to take my laptop back to my dad and say, could you do this again? And he'd say, don't touch this space. Somehow something always got in that space when I tried the formula again. So you just ask yourself, is there a formula you could create in that P&L that you don't touch? That my dad finally made it something where I couldn't mess it up. Is that something that would help the system?
It is, well, you still got to take the expenses and input them at some point in time. I think, you know, the system that I was exploring was just talking to my CPA and say, hey, what do you charge for a bookkeeping service? And here's what he told me to charge. I thought, well, maybe I'll delegate just the bookkeeping service and have it done nice and neat. And so I toyed with that, but I think I was too cheap to spend the money for that, because I thought, hey, this is so simple, I could do this myself, you know?
Check out Benchco, bench.co.
What's that? Say it again.
Check out Bench, bench.co. Bench.co.
Co or co?
CO. I don't think they do referrals or anything like that, but I'll tell you guys, that was a game changer in my business, is to put it, because all I have to do is I have a business card that's attached to the bank account, and all I do is upload all the statements. They want receipt. We're working on it. And then upload all of that stuff to the system, and
Oop. Uh-oh.
you don't have to go through those statements. They give me a P&L. It has all that stuff on there that says whether I'm doing well or I'm not. And it really is a helpful system that if I can't do.
Sarah, I see your text. We started Mint at the beginning of the year too. And my wife's like,
Yep.
okay. So
Well, here's a question that I have. So, and please push back on me with this, okay? What would it look like if you were to spend an hour a week working on that?
oh, an hour a week, that's it?
Yeah.
I'd stay on top of it without any issue.
Well, so my question is, and trust me, I leave this to the last minute myself, so I totally get where you're coming from. But that's what I've started doing is, and I can't wait till the end of the day, right? It has to be, for me, first, it's like for me going to the gym, because I am not Paul. I have to do it first thing in the morning or I won't do it. It's just how it is, right? But if we can take those little chunks and make it that much easier each time, then it's not this big daunting thing at the end of the month. And then if you skip the month, now you've got 2 months. And if you skip two, I mean, it just compounds, right?
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I should just hit it first thing in the morning, but then I like, wait a second, if I'm doing that, I'm going to miss my calls, and then it's a vicious circle, you know? So I gotta get my calls in first, so lately I've been getting up earlier and earlier for some reason, I don't know why. So I could do it first thing in the morning, Sarah. So I'm gonna take your recommendation. If that's all I take out of this call, I think that's probably well worth it, because the amount of stress, you build it up in your head, you know, and it starts stressing you out, and then you don't have a clear head focus on the revenue generating activities.
Well, Mike, you're right, and here's the thing. Atomic Habits would tell us to start the habit the smallest portion. Maybe just say, I'm just going to spend 5 minutes a day, because you're talking about taking an hour away from your lead gen. If you have 2 hours of lead gen, that's half your lead gen. That's kind of a hard switch to justify, to be honest. But if you just take 5 minutes and say, look, I'll start at 8:55 and just spend 5 minutes, or what's the smallest amount of time that you could start doing that habit and just stop? Or if you want to keep going, you can keep going if you start it.
Yeah, 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I mean, I could carve out 15 minutes rather easily and just knock it out early in the morning.
Yeah. Well, one thing that Paul found that I'm going to put up on the screen that I thought was phenomenal is just shifting your perspective, right? So when we look at this, and kind of something to think about, Michael and everybody. So it might take you 30 days to create a habit, but that habit could change your life for 30 years, right? Or even just 1 year. Like, think about that. If you were on top of it, it might take you 1 hour to complete a workout, but that'll keep you in a good mood for the next 12 hours. It might take you 30 minutes to complete a morning routine, but it'll build the momentum for the rest of the day. It might take you 5 hours to read a book, but you'll keep that knowledge forever. It might take you 3 months to learn a new skill. That skill could make you millions. Do not limit yourself to short-term thinking. Long-term thinking really is.
You know, Sarah, as you were reading that, the one on the right in the middle, it would take you 3 months to learn a new skill. That still could make you millions. I saw a post today that said, what if you're making $50,000? You don't know how to make $1 million? Not knowing how to make $1 million costs you $950,000 per year.
Yep.
Let me say that again. If you're making $50,000 a year and you don't know how to make $1 million, it's costing you $950,000 not to make $1 million.
Yeah.
Now that to me is extreme in my mind. I have to wrap my head around, okay, I want to go from 150 to 300. You know, And so not learning how to make the 300 is costing me 150,000 a year. So I could afford, or it would be worth me paying $149,000 to learn that skill this year.
Well, the one thing, Michael, if you don't mind me using you as an example. So you were saying how, you're not doing your P&L and then you're not sure if the expenses are outweighing the income and all of that. If you were to slowly build up, right, to where you're catching up and you get to that point, and then you can start to play. To me, it's a game that I would always play with myself. Okay, I need, 3 more sales in the next 2 months or whatever that is, right? And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, well, now I know I need to make, 3 more phone calls a day, or I need to go out. And I mean, you've got your phenomenal Facebook group that you're really doing very well with, by the way. But all your different ways that you're reaching out and meeting people. So again, how could you do 1 more or 2 more? Or, what is that number just to get those, and having those numbers in front of you by completing the P&L, that's really going to help.
Yeah, and sorry, Mike, I muted your mic because there was some background noise. So if you have more to share, on mute.
Oh, Mike, we need you to unmute.
Yeah, sorry. There's a major thunderstorm going on right now, so I'm not sure if that's.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, so they said tornadoes or whatever. I don't know. Who knows? We just had a power outage last week at this time. So no, I totally agree with you, Sarah. I think I just got to chunk it down a little bit, and as I chunk it down, that's where I build the momentum again. I'm a big momentum guy. When I'm and I've also run as well, Paul. So not marathons, but I used to run. And I enjoyed running. So the thing with running is once you stop, it's like there's something in you just wants to stay stopped, but even if you feel like slowing, if you keep going, so momentum for me is a big one. And I felt like I lost my momentum last month, and now I'm just trying to pick it back up. And that P&L plays into that a little bit, but that played into it last year. So I'm just gonna, I think, chunk it down. You just gotta start. I like the 5-minute or the 15-minute, just to get it going. And then I can look back and start evaluating my numbers and gain from that momentum. And at the same time, then get back into the revenue producing activities, which one of the things that gives me passion is client appreciation events, because that focuses on my sphere. And so, but I just like the chunking down and what you said, Sarah. So.
Well, and Mike, as you were talking, I was thinking about the difference between momentum and traction. Like if you're driving a vehicle, a 5-speed, we don't have 5 speeds anymore. But if you're driving a car and you lose momentum, you have to shift down to shift back up. But if you're spinning your wheels, and this might open up a whole new topic. You're spinning your wheels. Story of a guy that was stuck along the road, and it was just snowing a little bit, and he couldn't get out of the ditch because no one wanted to help him. And then a tree fell down in the storm, and he cut the tree down, put the logs in the truck, and then he's like, well, let me try again. And with that extra weight, he took off. So sometimes we have to take things off of our plates to shift down, but sometimes we just have to put the whole damn load on, and it gets us traction. Like, for instance, for me, that meant I had to sign up for a whole marathon to start running again. Because when I just signed up for these 5Ks, I could cheat my way through 5Ks. But a marathon, it really shows who you are.
Right.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
No one day in running a marathon is hard. Like that's how I learned so much about life through running a marathon. Because no one workout is hard, except thinking about it is hard.
Yeah.
It's mental. A lot of it's mental, Paul.
And
oh my gosh.
And
so mental.
No one lead gen call is hard, but looking at 20 in 2 hours ahead of me scares the crap out of me every morning. Not gonna lie.
You got to pick up the phone and get started, or get out on your social media and get out there, or do your group. I mean, we had a great call earlier this week, and I got stuck doing the things that I thought were going to be important instead of doing the things that are important. We know that in real estate, there's 5 things. 5. It's not many. 5 things that if you do, you will be successful. It doesn't matter what your personality, it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter any of that. If you do 5 things, they're going to be successful. So it's literally kind of in between the mental part of, like you were saying, Paul, and then Mike was saying, he knows what to do. He's just doing it. Like Nike nailed it with that "just do it." I don't know how many of you saw that movie, but just doing it.
Niki, every day I have to trick myself into getting into lead gen. So on the top here, I have happy birthday. So I just send a happy birthday video message to whoever has a birthday that day. And that gets me momentum. And then I also have the first 3. I was like, this shit's hard. So you just have to get through those first 3 calls. And the same thing with running. I just have to get through that first mile. The first mile always sucks.
Yeah.
I've run 5 marathons, and every first mile, actually about 2.5 miles, sucks.
I can just say I'm impressed the fact that you can actually run. The only time you're ever going to see me run, you better run faster than me because something's bigger than me chasing. I grew up with 5 brothers, and there is nothing that I run from except, like I tell people, and it's funny, it's all over the internet, but running is just not my jam. But look how cool it is that you can break it down and compartmentalize. The first mile is going to suck. But then at the end of it, you're going to have so many life lessons that are going to be so good, you know, and then you get that runner's high I've heard about. Like I said, there's nothing that big that's chased me yet that I've had to run. Others have had to run fast, but I'm telling you what, I'm always impressed with runners.
Well, I just hired a trainer. We just joined a gym, and I hired a trainer because I'm the one who walks in and goes, well, I think this one I do this way. And I sit down at whatever machine and I'm like, and I guess I'll just guess at whatever weight. Now I could do the treadmill. I could do the elliptical, even though that thing destroys me every time. You know, I'll go on the treadmill. I'll put the angle up. I'll do all these things, right? But then they're like, well, then you should do this pulley thing. And I'm like, I don't know that thing. You know, but without having that, you know, because my kids, they are looking at me like, how do you not know? And I'm like, I was a swimmer. I didn't do, you know, we used to tread water with bricks. That was, you know, and we'd swim for 5 hours a day. It was crazy.
Well, Sarah,
we're talking about slumps here, and I think this is so great because we're all figuring out where slumps in life are. So how do we take where our slumps in life are and apply it to where our business is?
well, and Niki,
Secret. Let's do this. Paul, what's your secret?
what do you mean my secret? My secret is
What's your secret sauce?
hire as many coaches as I don't have money for.
That's right.
Like I'm actually
That's why I hired the trainer.
when I first started running marathons, I had a nutrition coach, a workout coach, someone who wrote my program, and then also I have celiac, so I had to have like a special nutrition coach. I didn't have money for all that stuff, but I just committed to it, and I stopped paying for Starbucks. I stopped McDonald's. I stopped buying whiskey. I stopped buying all the shoes. I have a shoe session, and I ran marathons instead.
Okay, so basically what I heard you just say is exactly it. When we're in a slump, what do? You get a coach. You get a coach, and what does that coach do? Today I had a meeting with a new client, and she's an attorney starting a new firm, and she's never had a coach. I said, you've never had a coach anywhere in your life? She said, no. I said, anywhere? She's had mentors, but there's a difference between mentors and coaches.
That's a good question. Hey, Niki, so I've gone back and forth. So if you had to break down the difference between a coach and a mentor, how would you define it?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked this question because I'm so thrilled. So we've been in this book club. We've been reading John Maxwell books. And literally, let me show you guys this book right here.
Oh, yeah.
You seen it? So I will tell you, and I got the one that actually had to define it. So Mike, thank you for asking because I had to actually do it. What the difference between a coach is, coaches back in the day were used to carry valuables and people. Like if you go back to the olden times, you know, with the wooden wheels and the coach. And it even said on here, because I know for a fact I even put it on there. The difference is a coach would take you from one place to the other and it carried something valuable. A mentor could be somebody who just does what you do and they'll give you some pieces of advice, but a coach goes along the ride with you. You say, for example, like I had a MAPS coach for 5 years. His name was Mike Cronz. I lost my voice for 8 months. Mike called me every Thursday at 1 o'clock for 8 months when I sounded horrific. But you know what he did? He showed up, he was consistent, and he never gave up on me. He lent me his belief that I was going to get through whatever it was, and they couldn't find it. I jumped through every hoop, every system, every different doctor. Like, think about how many hospitals and medical systems are in your city. There's 4 here. I went to a different doctor in each one, different company, if you will, trying to find somebody that could figure it out. No one could figure it out. So the difference is, once I found out what it was, which was allergies, by the way, because I used to live in Louisville, that was the allergy capital of the world. Once I found out who that was, my allergist became my coach, my health coach, because I had to learn how to breathe again. And I had to learn how not to freak out again. And I had to learn how to do vocal things. And I have to get shots twice a month in order for me to have a voice. So ask yourself, where, if you're running, for example, with Paul, where in life did you have a coach, someone come in, sign up with you, and they are committed to your success, not theirs. They're committed to your success. So John Maxwell does tell the story about it. If you get this book, it does have it on there, that the purpose of a coach is back in the day, it takes the valuables from one place to where they are. And I'm still trying to find exactly. The next part would be, is where do you want your pain point to come? I mean, everybody I'm not sure if everybody knows who. Is everybody like KW here or done Bold, or is everybody different companies? I don't know who we're all on the.
Yeah, I've done, just quick, I've done Bold 3 or 4 times in the KW for going on 10 years.
Okay, so there you go. So I did Bold the first time in 2009.
Too many times to mention.
Okay. The reason I say this is this. The one thing that we learned in Bold, for those of us that have taken this course, is you're never the same person twice, right? There's all those quotes. No matter what you're doing in this world, when you have accountability, you will do better. Whether it's you don't let down your peers, you don't let down your coach, you don't let down someone else. You do not want to show up. Sarah is my accountability partner. And it doesn't matter if I do it 5 seconds before I get on the call with her. I will get it done just because I don't want to show up on the call and not have it done.
I'm scary like that.
Coaching does that. It really does. You have someone that's watching. And that's the other thing that's in this book that talks about,
15
when
months.
someone's watching you, you're going to do better than you are on your own. And a coach is the person who's going to show up for you and be that person that's going to take that journey with you. To get you
and
to
ask the questions that you don't want asked, because that's usually where the problem is.
And that's the other thing I learned. So the thing my coach taught me most, aside from calling and going through that god awful call with me when I sounded horrific. I mean, this is a good voice and it doesn't sound great, but I will tell you this. The best part about what I learned from there is that commitment to never stop. And he was committed, and he, for 5 years, I had the same coach for 5 years. 5 years. And Sean Kokoska got me to go into it when I had $2,500 at family reunion after he had to show up in Louisville and do Bold. And that's how I got to meet him. And he looked at me and he said, "Why are you stopping from going all in?" I said, "Because I don't have an extra $1,000 a month right now. I'm a single mom. I'm $2,500 in my bank account. And I just hired an EA and I brought her to family reunion. It's the first time she's ever been on a plane or out of the state of Kentucky. So you want me to do this?" And Sean looked right at me and he said, "Go all in." And he was right. My business blew up. I started doing expansion. I sold real estate in 3 cities and 2 states, even when people told me I couldn't do it or they didn't know how to do it. So the thing was, Mike was there with me to figure it out as my coach. What do we need to do next?
Well, and Niki, can I just jump in on this one?
Please.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of coaches, and the best coaches give me a quick overall framework, but then they piecemeal me week by week what I need to do and not overwhelm me with the whole month or a whole half year's worth of stuff. that's the difference I've learned between a good coach and a bad coach. A mentor just says, hey, this kind of works for me. I hope it works. Like Mike, you said, what's the difference? A mentor said, hey, look, this worked for me. I hope it does for you. A coach will learn your speed and will speak at the speed that you actually do action.
They will also ask you the self-discovering question for you to self-discover so that you take the action because it's what you want.
Well, and if I could just throw in here too, it doesn't always have to be a coach you hire. And just a quick example is when I was paying off credit card debt, I had, I think, like 5 different cardboard boxes with the dollar amount on it. And then I had a picture of the reward after paying that off. And I showed my kids, it was like on my counter. And so I said, when this will get paid off, we're going to get, I don't know, go out to eat. And this one was a puppy and this was this. And so on the weekends when my 8-year-old came over and I said, hey, honey, do you want to go out for dinner? She's like, well, is that going to keep us from getting the puppy? And so that's a little different, but that was accountability, group accountability. And I got that idea from Diana Kokoska when she talked about the little red wagon. And she told her kids, hey, when I'm talking to realtors, like if you're loud, I can't get my deal done. But if you're not loud, we can live in this cool neighborhood.
I did that with my daughter the whole time. I can tell you she is fierce and she is a little scary because she's been used to do her affirmations in the car on the way when I would drive her to kindergarten. She's going to be something big. I'm telling you guys, I know it. And I've stayed in touch with Diana Kokoska about this. So I love what we're talking about when we talk about slumps, but I love what we're talking about when we talk about growth. You know, admitting where you are and where it's not maybe where you want to be, but being willing to show up on this call today. You're willing to show up to say you want to do something different.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, like, you know, how to wrap up this idea of like how to get back into momentum. And I'm just curious to hear like what we all gathered so far. Like what's one piece that we gathered to go out to get some momentum? I know for me, it's a daily routine. Sean, you had something?
Just putting yourself in the position to, you know, be around people who are who already have it. Surround yourself with others that are either seeking to gain more momentum or already are in momentum. And you know, I might jump on a treadmill next to one of you guys, and I might be a little bit slower. Yet tomorrow I'm going to be a little bit faster, and soon we're going to be running stride by stride in stride with each other. And it doesn't happen overnight. And it does happen when you turn the light bulb on and say, hey, you know what? I look over my shoulder and I guess I am in a slump, because you don't know in the moment, you know, after the fact. And I think for me, what I've heard is it's getting on a call like this. It's not missing these type of calls. It's knowing that now that, you know, Niki held up the book, and I'm late to the game here in the real part, you know, being indoctrinated into the coaching program. So I didn't have the book. I wasn't part of the book club, but I went and I ordered it, and I can pick it up at Barnes and Nobles. And I just wrote myself a little note, stop at Barnes and Nobles as soon as this call is done to get that book. Those are the kind of things that get me out of stagnation and into momentum.
Yep. Even get it on Audible. It's amazing when you turn your car into a classroom. That was a John Maxwell thing, not me.
My ADHD has me so bad that where I would never follow the book along. I'm a slow learner. So I do Audible and the book. So I can follow along in the book and read, and I hear it, and I can stop, take notes. And so I agree with that.
That's excellent. And so if any of you do enjoy listening to Gary Keller speak, he just had a podcast with Molly Fletcher. And he said, she asked him as coaches, because he believes he's a coach and a teacher. He believes that was what he was gifted to do. But he said the biggest thing that we can have as coaches and teachers and leaders is a training calendar, a specific training calendar. Because when we're coaches and we're leaders and we're leading our clients, if we don't have a training calendar that's leading us to greatness, how can we stand in front of them and lead them to greatness? So just a little word from not me, from him. So
that's amazing. I'm just curious, like Christy, for you today, just listening today, what part of this conversation resonated with you that would make a difference the rest of today and the rest of this week for you?
Great question. So I think I got the biggest what lit me up the most was when back in the beginning of the conversation, when everyone was talking about what's stopping them, for me, it's what to do first. And I'm like in that, I just stepped out of unconscious incompetence into the, oh hell, I have a lot to learn and I didn't expect this. And it's not an excuse, we have reason to results. I'm a bold girl, but change from a buyer's agent on a team for the last 12 years to a single agent 4 months ago. And now I'm adding a coaching business. And so I'm like in over my head in all kinds of stuff. And so like I said, I'm grateful to hear people because, we all have our own stuff and that kind of makes me feel better a little bit in a weird way, but anyway. So that's my biggest takeaway is I get caught in what do I do first? And then when I can't figure that out, I just create a distraction or I don't do anything.
So ask yourself this, put a sticky note somewhere because, I got sticky notes taken away from me a long time ago by my family. I had a note. I wasn't allowed to go to Office Depot by myself because I will write myself all kinds of notes. Here's the thing I learned though. What are the 5 things I can do right now that will make me money?
Income producing activities. Yeah.
What are my 5 income producing activities? And put them where you can see them. If you struggle, if you're a freezer, I'm a freezer.
Okay.
And I go,
so that's good. So let me twist it up a little bit on you. So I'm still maintaining my lead gen and my lead follow-up and looking to add that piece to my coaching business. But my real estate business, that still happens every day religiously. I don't have, what I'm getting is when I'm in what I call my blue time and I'm working on my business. It's like, okay, where do I go first? Do I go to my website? Do I go to my this? Do I scroll? And that's the piece. It's like, what's the most important thing? So that's why I keep going back to when Adam said, just do something. So I had my business meeting with my virtual today and we're just gonna do something and be messy about it. So
I think messy is better than nothing.
Imperfect action is better than perfect inaction.
That's very good, Sarah. I like that. Thank you.
Well, and I learned that in kindergarten, especially when my daughter went to school. I really loved this. She said, practice does not make us perfect. Practice just makes us better.
Just makes us permanent. We can be sucky forever if we practice wrong. I got you.
I'm going to take
And
you back.
that's why I walk into the gym and go, am I doing this right?
Do you know how much fun we would have at Home Depot? I'm just imagining, Niki, you and I walking into Home Depot and getting with his big carts. I don't know who's going to be pushing, but one is going to be pushing, one's going to be putting things in the cart, and there's going to be chaos.
And I'm going to be the one who's like calming you both down and getting you out of the store as fast as possible.
Well, I was going to say, can we go to Office Depot instead of Home Depot? I do not do anything that involves tools. I only have a toolkit in my garage because I bought a house and thought you're supposed to have tools in your garage. And then I bought it at a garage sale that had all the tools in it already.
Well, maybe we should go watch Barbie.
No.
Before we miss anyone, Justin, I know you're on. I don't know if you can unmute. I'd love to hear what you gathered. If you put in the chat or just let us know. Love to hear what you heard today.
So I was going to say my most vulnerable aspect of my business right now. So I've been doing lending for about 3 years now, but I actually worked for like a refi shop for the first 2.5 years of my lending career, which was good training, but it obviously is very different than the world that, is the real estate world that we live in today. And so my hardest part is I am great at being able to interact with people at different events, but I am extremely uncomfortable trying to cold call to try and even interact or try and get that next, breakfast, lunch, whatever it may be with an agent specifically. If it doesn't come, from like a transfer of trust from another agent.
So in other words, building your sphere of influence, like pulling people into your world, that's the tough part for you.
Yeah, well, I would say new people, right? I had a sphere of influence prior to taking on this role, but it wasn't, consistent because I was doing mostly refis and not the purchase and the refi aspect of it, and dealing more with the agents themselves. So that's definitely been more of a challenge, and trying to think, you know, in the world that we live in, it's no different. But trying to think short term, what can I do to get a paycheck this month, rather than, you know, long term, I'm putting a system in that's beneficial for not only myself, but also agents and clients, as far as newsletters and, you know, contact and continuously following up with them.
So Justin, is this a challenge you're having right now? Like, are you saying this is the slump that you feel like you might have, or the momentum shift you have right now in the middle of this summer, 2023?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I wouldn't even say it's just, you know, the summer. I mean, it's just gaining enough momentum to keep the momentum going without going in, you know, ebbs and flows.
Can I coach you through this a bit? Can I ask a couple
100%. Yep.
So what happens if you don't figure this out?
Failure is not an option.
Well, it is an option. I mean, we choose to by doing nothing. That becomes an option. So what happens if you don't figure this out for you? And this might be a question to think about later, but just right now, what's your best gut response to that?
Honestly, I don't even have an answer to that question.
Well, I'm just going to answer it for you. Let's say you don't figure this out and you don't have the money you need and you're going to have to get another job. That's going to be hard. Or if you do the hard thing, talk to people, figure out how to do this, and then you make the money and you get what you want. Both are going to be hard. Just pick your hard. One gives you options.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
And I know that went really fast. I just kind of shared this quickly. Like sometimes I'll take 15 minutes to talk through this conversation. But really what I want to just drop with you, Justin, and thanks for being, you know, vulnerable right now with all of us. But really, I'm saying this for myself too. Just pick your hard. Like Mike, you helped me with this. If I don't run every day, the marathon is going to be so hard and I'm going to get shin splints and I'll probably DNF, like do not finish. And I have to walk home like I did 3 times. And I don't want that. Like that's annoying and embarrassing. And my kids are at the finish line waiting on me. So Justin, for you, this is fun. You can just laugh and say, you know what, cold calls, it's just cold for a while. You know, I was a team leader and I was rejected out of 60 phone calls. I was rejected usually 58 times in a 60 phone calls, and 2 people said yes. And that was hard. And I actually burnt out doing that. I didn't figure out how to keep being a team leader. But what did keep me going is pick your hard. Sarah, you're just shaking your head. Yeah, jump in on this to help Justin out with this.
Well, I was talking to my teenage boys and we were having a discussion the other day and I was explaining to them the concept of eat that frog, or how do you eat an elephant? Either one. It's all about eating, by the way, which is bizarre. That we have to do the things that we don't want to do first. For me, that's going to the gym. I have to do it first or I won't do it, right? When they're looking at their homework, I have one in high school and one in college. And when they're looking at their homework, they don't want to do it. They want to go play a game or build a model or whatever the thing is that they're doing. And I'm like, okay, but you got to do the work first. You got to do the hard part, the thing you don't want to do the most. That's also why we always in real estate or even in the mortgage industry talk about making the calls in the morning. Now, I know for my business, a lot of times I did much better making the calls after lunch because people tended to answer, where I didn't get a lot of answers in the morning. But if I didn't get it done in the morning, I would find other things that, oh yeah, I have to go do that. I can't, you know, I'll just skip this afternoon's lead gen because I have to go do, you know, whatever the thing is at the moment. It becomes easy, right? So if we set ourselves up with, you know, what is the hard or eating the frog or whatever we want to call it that makes sense to us, and we have that as our priority, then that can really help us keep that momentum. And once you've done it, like what I like about the 66-day challenge is when you look at it, I mean, some people are very harsh on it and it's, oh, if you break a day, then you have to start all the way over. But here's the thing. Could you imagine if you're like 27 days into it and something happens, or whatever your goal is, whether it's running or it's your lead gen or whatever that is, and you're 27 days in and you're sitting there and you do not feel like running at all. but you're looking at that sheet and you're like 27 days in, and if I don't do it, I gotta start over. Is
I
it
can
worth
never do
it?
that. I shouldn't say that. I should say that is one of my mental blocks on 75 days hard. My friend did it, and then she said, well, I didn't do this, but I just counted it. And I was like, I guess I'm a T crosser. I daughter. I have to start over. I tell on myself.
But that's kind of that thing is, set yourself up. Some of us, we, run towards pleasure. Some of us run away from pain, right? So everybody's got a different thing that motivates them. And once we can come down to what motivates us to get it done, that's going to be how you're going to know how to drive yourself.
Well, and Sarah, and I'll tell you this, I don't know what motivates me. It usually takes a coach to help me identify that. And it shifts, like even in a marathon training, my coach was at the beginning, he was like, hey, the race is out there. But halfway through, he's like, if you don't do this, it's going to suck. And then he shifts, for me, he shifted how he motivated me, because my internal, I don't know what happened. We change.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have a coach that's intuitive and actually listens and adapts with you. Justin, how you
If you
feel?
think about it, it makes sense that it would shift because we shift.
That's a good point.
Yes. If you use a goal as, for example, Paul, the date of the event, right? Let's just say September 1st, you're signing up for 26.1 miles running. And you know that you have to finish because your kids are there and you're training to do all of this. That is your one thing, right? So when we talked about Mike getting his momentum back, what is his one thing? It's just doing the activity. It doesn't necessarily matter what it is that you're doing. It's that you're doing it.
Yeah.
Love it. Justin, you unmuted. We got 2 minutes left here. What was you had something to contribute? I feel bad that I beat you up.
No, honestly, I need it. So the reality is, honestly, just from being what I've done before, lead calling, it doesn't scare me. It's the agent aspect of it, of the cold calling the agents. That's just something I need to get more comfortable in being able to do.
Do you have other LOs that you can, practice with, like peers that you could call and say, hey, look, let me practice 2 calls in the morning before I call my people?
I haven't even thought of that as an option.
Well, and that can be kind of like,
yeah,
for a while and you just kind of get out of your system. It could help.
Yeah, half of our LOs are retail only with agents, and the other half are leads only. But the one who's like I won't say the heavy hitter, but the one who typically has done the most and has been doing it the longest, he actually had an LOA who did only cold calling for agents. So it's kind of hard to, accurately. Yeah, well, that's the hard part about trying to role play something with him when he's not actually doing it himself.
Got it. Well, hey, we are right at the 1 hour mark, and Sharon, I don't want to miss giving you the opportunity. You thought you snuck out of here with not talking. I don't know if you're able to unmute, but I'd love to just at least hear from you if you're able to. I don't see the red button on muting, so that's no worries. No worries. Ladies and gentlemen, our hour, it went quickly. Thank you so much for playing all in. I really, really appreciate it. This has been helpful for me. What I heard from all of you is we're in this together, and together we can also win. Sometimes mentors look like a friend to help us, like with doing our calls in the morning together. It could be hiring a coach. It could be having a friend give us accountability. But if nothing else, just do one thing or one thing more to get back into that momentum, and we will be amazing.
Just keep swimming.
So good. Thank you all. Appreciate you all. You guys can hang out
everybody.
for a while. Whoever has control of everything here, thank you for doing it, Sarah. You're amazing. Appreciate you.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.